In the vast stillness of dawn, when the desert winds paused between whispers, Sheikh Hamdan found poetry not in words, but in silence. It was a silence that spoke of 1,000 suns rising over the golden dunes, of unspoken prayers carried by falcons through boundless skies. To him, silence was not emptiness, it was an echo of truth, a sacred space where the soul conversed with the unseen. His deepest words were born not from speech, but from reflection, not from declaration, but from the calm certainty that hearts can understand what lips may never say. The world knew Sheikh Hamdan for his eloquence, yet few realized that his greatest verses lived in moments when he said nothing at all. His gaze toward the horizon held entire poems, his pauses between breaths carried stories of love, faith, and destiny. Silence, for him, was the art of restraint, a way of hearing the voice of life without drowning it in noise. In the solitude of thought, he found rhythm, in the absence of sound, he discovered meaning. Every quiet second was a verse, every heartbeat a line written upon the sand. In an age consumed by endless chatter, Sheikh Hamdan stood apart, rooted in serenity, fluent in stillness. He taught that silence is not the absence of conversation but the presence of clarity. His reflections were like mirrors held up to the soul, asking not what we had to say, but whether we could truly listen. When he rode beneath the desert moon, the world seemed to pause with him. The night would stretch, the stars would lean closer, and in that hush, one could hear the pulse of creation itself. Those who knew him closely said his silence healed them. In his company, words felt unnecessary, hearts aligned without effort. He spoke with his eyes, with his actions, with the quiet assurance that true wisdom needs no adornment. His was the silence that did not conceal, but revealed, the kind that invited one to dive deeper into being. It was not the silence of withdrawal, but of awakening, not a barrier, but a bridge between souls. When Sheikh Hamdan reflected on life, he saw it as a dialogue between the visible and the invisible. The dunes spoke to the wind, the falcon understood the horizon, the heart conversed with destiny. His deepest words emerged from this sacred exchange. Silence, he once wrote, is where God teaches the soul to listen. In his quietude, he found not loneliness but communion, a nearness to all that breathes and all that remains unseen. Every poem he penned carried traces of this sacred quiet. The rhythm of his verses echoed the stillness of the desert before dawn. His imagery was vast yet intimate, like the space between two heartbeats. Through silence, he understood the language of endurance, the humility of time, the grace of patience. To him, silence was not the absence of expression, it was the purest form of it, a melody that required no sound to be heard. There was a profound balance in Sheikh Hamdan's way of being. He lived amid grandeur yet valued the simplicity of a silent dawn. He led people, yet he followed the whispers of his own heart. His silence was not retreat but strength, an inner command that rose above chaos. He understood that the truest leaders do not always speak the loudest, they listen the deepest. In that quiet strength lay his secret, the ability to hear what others overlook, to feel what others rush past. As his words spread beyond borders, so did his silence. People around the world found comfort in his stillness, as if it spoke directly to their inner yearning for peace. His silence became a shared language, universal, timeless, healing. It reached those who had lost themselves in the noise of modern life, reminding them that the most powerful messages often arrive wrapped in quiet. Through his example, silence became not an absence, but a presence, one that could unite hearts across oceans. There were moments when Sheikh Hamdan's silence was misunderstood, when people mistook it for distance or detachment. Yet those who watched closely saw something else, an awareness deeper than words. He was not withholding speech, he was preserving sanctity. His silence was his compass, guiding him through the noise of the world. It was how he stayed connected to the divine, to truth, to the pulse of nature that so many have forgotten. When he spoke again after long silence, His words carried weight.
In the quiet that followed his teachings, people began to find a strange comfort in the spaces where words used to live. The young and old alike started to sit in stillness, by the sea, beneath the palms, beside the quiet sands, listening for something deeper than sound. It was as if Sheikh Hamdan's silence had planted a seed in every heart, urging each person to rediscover their inner calm. The world, once addicted to noise and rush, began to breathe again. They realized that silence was not a void to be filled, but a sanctuary to be entered, a place where the self returns home. Through his silence, he had taught humanity to pause. To pause before reacting, before judging, before speaking. It was a lesson the world had long forgotten. In that sacred pause, people found perspective. They found kindness where anger used to live, and understanding where confusion once grew. Sheikh Hamdan's quiet influence spread like dawn light across the dunes, soft, persistent, and undeniable. His silence had become a teacher, and the world, at last, became its student. Even the animals seemed to respond to that calm energy. Horses, falcons, camels, creatures that had always surrounded him, moved with a peace that mirrored his stillness. Nature became his mirror, and he became nature's echo. When he stood at the edge of the desert, watching the horizon blur into eternity, it was as though the universe itself paused with him. In that perfect stillness, every element, sand, sky, spirit, spoke the same unspoken truth: silence is the mother of all wisdom. Artists, writers, and dreamers began to reinterpret silence through their craft. Painters used lighter shades, musicians softened their chords, poets left intentional blanks between lines. They no longer feared emptiness, they embraced it. The absence of noise became an art form, a spiritual experience. Sheikh Hamdan's influence was subtle yet immense. He had reshaped the very rhythm of expression. People started to hear beauty not only in the song but in the moment right before it began. And still, his own silence continued to evolve. It was not static but alive, changing with each dawn, deepening with each sunset. It became more than a philosophy, it became his legacy. Those who followed him began to realize that his quietness was not a withdrawal from life, but a deeper participation in it. His silence did not separate him from the world, it connected him more profoundly to everything within it. He had found the divine equilibrium, the balance between presence and peace. Now, long after his words and poems have circled the globe, his silence remains his most powerful message. It lingers in the air of every desert morning.